Well, overall, nationally, we know that the homeless population is increasing. That's youth, that's adult, that's everyone. We know in the last 5 years, approximately 1.3 million people have been affected by homelessness. In the past year, 200,000 have been affected by homelessness. In any one night, we know approximately 65,000 youth are homeless and without shelter. And that means they could be sleeping in the rough, they could be sleeping under bridges, they could be sleeping anywhere. But these figures are all, you might say, somewhat difficult to nail down because it's a transient population. It's hard to get a hard empirical fact from the data. We do know that the conservative level is there's about 150,000 homeless people in Canada. The NGOs double that up to 300,000. But the constant number is that whatever number you pick, 20% of that population will be the youth population. And the youth population goes from about 16 to 24. As you can imagine, they're underemployed. They don't have a lot of resources. A lot of them are suffering from past trauma issues, mental health issues. A lot of them have been in foster care and are aging out. And they just come from, by and large, an impoverished background. And they're entering into a world not fully mature. They're underdeveloped mentally. And their reasons for being on the street are quite different than, for example, a homeless adult, for whatever reason. Their barriers for getting off the street are much more difficult. They're young. They don't have a lot of trust in adults. A lot of adults don't have a lot of trust in them. They don't have good paying jobs. They can't find easily affordable rental units. And they don't have references. They don't have down payments, etc., etc. So there's a lot more barriers for them getting off the street than, for example, an adult homeless person. Also, especially in the city, in the region of Victoria, there aren't that many resources helping young people to keep from becoming homeless. But I think the bigger issue that most people don't understand is that the real crisis is with the hidden population. Today, we know that there's approximately in Victoria, well, going back to a study 2008 done for the city of Victoria and the region of Victoria, the CRD, it was estimated there were about 600 youth between 16 and 24 in need of housing. That were the ones that they could count. That was the ones that they could, find through different agencies that were helping out. It was a qualitative accounting of the numbers in the street. But the bigger issue is that we're no longer dealing with just the street population. 20 years ago, yes, Threshold got its start by dealing with the street population. Now we're dealing with a whole new demographic called the hidden youth homeless population. They're unaccompanied. They don't live with a nuclear family. Again, they're living by couch surfing, living 5, 6, however, to a room, living in someone's RV, living in someone's basement. They don't self-identify as being homeless. Again, they're at that delicate age where they don't want to be stigmatized. So it's a very difficult population. We know that in the youth homeless matrix, that we call it, it's a very transient population, and we see it all the time. They come from foster care, for example. They may go to a parent, or I'm sorry, to an aunt or an uncle. They may go and go to a shelter. They may go into transitional housing. They may go to the street. They may come back and go and live with a grandparent, and then they leave again. So by their very nature, they're transient. They've never had a stable home life. They've had very few adult models. So they don't feel very rootless. And that's the part of the issue, is that they don't know what a stable housing situation is. And that's why long-term transitional housing is an attempt to give them that stability that they don't have, as opposed to just going to a shelter for 10 or 12 nights per month and then changing shelters, so on and so forth. There's also another rule out there about couch surfing that's very interesting. It's called the 9-week rule, is that any youth can usually stay up to 3 weeks in someone's house or someone's room or whatever, and then they're asked to move on, and they usually have 3 friends. So you multiply that 3 weeks by 3 friends, you've got 9 weeks, and usually the average is they can stay 9 weeks in the couch surfing mode before they really have to settle for something different, whether it's again in the bridge, under the bridge, or under in someone's shelter, but not staying in a home. I want to go back to the notion of self-identifying. We've had many youth who, again, sleep in tents, sleep in the park, but they don't self-identify as being homeless because they don't want the stigma. They want to be seen as normal. And they don't want to be seen as someone who can't help themselves. I mean, we're not dealing with chronically impoverished people yet. They don't feel helpless. And I think that's the big issue that we would like to address, is that we want to get that element of dignity and motivation and capitalize on it to get them to finish school, to get them to get into a job training system, or get them on to post-secondary education. They are a treasure to us. We don't know who's going to be the next Einstein, who's going to be the next Madame Curie, who's going to be the next Prime Minister of Canada.